So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Problem Solving Beyond the A3. We're going to talk about when and why to apply DMAIC, PDCA, Kata, and we're also going to look at blitz. My name is Katie Lebeds. I am the president and CEO of a company called Learning to Lean. I'm based in Hortonville, Wisconsin. We're about 45 minutes south of Green Bay. I am a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt and Certified Project Management Professional. I'm also emotional intelligence coach. I've written 3 books and I have a 4th in the works, and I have over 20 years of experience in project management, continuous improvement, leadership, and coaching, as I tell every class, because I started when I was 12. So that's what we're going with this morning. So we will start here. We don't have a problem-solving problem. We have a tool selection problem. So most teams aren't really bad at problem solving. They're just using the wrong method to be able to do that. So how many of you have seen those tools on the screen and you knew that it was way too big or way too small or just not the right tool to be able to use? But that's what you have and that's what you knew. So that's the issue, right? So we default instead of deciding. So we look at it and go, you know what? Let's do a blitz. That's easy. That should work for everything, right? No. So we're going to talk about that this morning. So not all problems are created equal, as we know, right? So different problems require different levels of speed, structure, data, my favorite thing, and coaching. So when we force every problem into one methodology, we either overcomplicate simple problems or oversimplify complex ones. Both of those situations lead to frustration and really damage within the lean culture within your organization. So this leads to frustration, right? And chaos, because we have no idea what we're doing. People get very confused and have a hard time to understand which tool to use under which circumstance. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What tool do we use when? So what happens when you choose the wrong tool? So we know that we'll have slow progress. So it feels like things are never getting done. Or we may have chosen a project, as some of you have heard me say, that is going to boil the ocean or solve world hunger. And we definitely don't want to do that. This choosing the wrong tool can lead to analysis paralysis. I haven't said that in a long time. Surface level fixes and burnout from Herculean efforts. And that has been a topic that I have really discussed lately is Herculean effort, which means there are some people within your organization that are doing some crazy Herculean efforts or crazy things in order to keep you in business and providing the product or service to your customers, and you may or may not know it yet. So people aren't tired of solving problems. They're tired of solving them the wrong way over and over again. So we are going to talk about matching the method to the problem. So today we're going to look at blitz, PDCA, A3, DMAIC, and Kata. So blitz does not mean it has to impact the entire organization. So blitz can be something very, very pinpoint or very specific, and we'll talk about that. PDCA is not just a buzzword. It's not just a word that we throw around and say that we're doing, but not really doing it. A3 isn't for everything, or for some people, A3 is for nothing because they don't know how to use it. DMAIC is not always necessary. I know that's a shock, right? I love DMAIC, but that's not always necessary. And of course, Kata is not just for Toyota. So let's talk about blitz first. So blitz is a big impact in a short amount of time. So blitz is, of course, a fast, focused approach to solving a specific problem. Typically, as I explain to people, 1 to 5 days. It can be done in a couple minutes. Sometimes we have to order something and it's going to come in from Amazon in another day. That is a blitz. It can be cross-functional, or it could be just one person working on something. And the emphasis is on action over analysis. So the blitz goal is to implement immediately practical improvements. So we want implementation immediately, and we want practical improvements. So when do we use it? We use a blitz when the problem is clear and visible. And as I tell most organizations, think about 5S. 5S is a great example for your personal area. 5S is a great example for a blitz because we can see a marked before and after. Now remember, we can talk about physical or digital areas, so it's not just about shop floor. We use a blitz when root cause is mostly understood. We use it also when the solution does not require heavy data analysis, so no heavy lifting of data. And improvements can be tested quickly, and you need immediate impact. So if your team is saying, we already know what the issue is, we just need time to fix it, that's a blitz. If you're still debating what the problem actually is, it's not a blitz. So if your team knows how to fix it and we can fix it quickly, it's a blitz. So when should you not use a blitz? You should not use a blitz when that problem is unclear or poorly defined. And if you've been to any of my classes, you know that I ask the question, what problem are you trying to solve? If they can't answer what problem they're trying to solve, this is not the tool for them. We should not use a blitz when it's high risk or high cost of failure. Now, I teach classes all of the time, and talking about risk does not mean we are negative. Talking about risk means we are realistic, and we have to talk about the things that could go well and go bad in a project. We don't use a blitz when we need deep data analysis, or cross-functional alignment is missing, or it's a long-term complex process redesign. So as we'll learn, blitz is speed, A3 is clarity and alignment, and DMAIC is depth and perception and precision. The risk of using blitz wrong is we can solve the symptoms instead of the root cause. So we know we don't want to do that. We all understand root cause analysis, and we want to truly solve the problem so it doesn't come back again. Changes don't sustain, meaning they come back in another day, another week, or another month. If we don't use blitz the right way, team frustration increases. Oh my gosh, this doesn't work. Or we already tried that, right? So people start to lose faith in that lean culture. So this is where people misuse it the most. They try to blitz everything. They'll try to blitz a DMAIC, or they'll try to blitz an A3, and that just doesn't work. So that's when you get quick changes and then everything falls apart later on. So none of these are better. They're just different tools for different problems. So you can't, of course, you can always say, I love blitz. That's my favorite tool, right? But that doesn't apply to every scenario. So again, when we use the wrong tool, we create more frustration, not less. So again, blitz is something that we can do quickly, and we really understand the problem that we're trying to solve. Okay, so now we are progressing in the level of complexity, or maybe in the amount of time that it takes to complete too. So the next one is PDCA. So PDCA, everyday problem solving. PDCA stands for Plan, Do, Check, Act. What is PDCA? It's simple and repeatable for continuous improvement. Focuses on testing and learning. So let's try it and let's see. Let's try it and let's see, but let's also make a decision associated with that let's try and see. So again, small iterative changes, not big bang. This is something that we can test. It's used to improve process over time, and it helps us build problem-solving habits. Its goal is to learn quickly and adjust. So this is something that we can have an opportunity to try a solution in a controlled environment. and then make decisions based on the outcome of that solution. So in the plan step, we identify what problem you're trying to solve and develop a hypothesis. Now, as I teach PDCA, 50% of your time should be spent in planning. So do most people spend 50% of their time in planning? No, they don't. They are just hurry up and let's solve the problem. They do what I call problem solving paintball. So we really need to ask good questions to be able to understand the problem you're trying to solve. In the do step, we test the change on a small scale. So in a controlled environment, or maybe for one group of people, or maybe for one area, not a big bang. Check is obviously we review the results and compare it to our expectations or our needs. And then act is to adjust. Now we either standardize or try again. Now, I have definitely worked through organizations that I've done plan, do, check, freeze, because you're like, oh my gosh, we made a mistake. Nobody look, let's just keep moving on, right? And it's unfortunate to be in a circumstance or in an environment where that type of culture is. And that is something that we can discuss at another time. But we want the culture in which we can do, plan, do, check, and act. We do PDCA, as I tell every class, to keep you from doing ready, fire, aim. It is an everyday problem solving methodology, but not everything works that way. Not everything needs a blitz, not everything needs a PDCA. This is how we work to improve continuously, one step at a time. And it's less about getting it perfect, which we could have a whole discussion on minimum viable product, right? So it doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be the minimum viable product. And this is about learning quickly and adjusting. Now, the key word to the whole thing here, the whole slide, is cycle. This is a cycle of continuous improvement. So PDCA, when to use it, when the problem isn't fully understood, right? And you need a little bit more time than a blitz. So it's not like, oh, we can solve that. No, we need maybe to do a little bit more investigation. That's where that 50% comes back into place. You want to test ideas quickly. So you don't want to wait 6 months in order to be able to test these problems. You want to be able to test them right now in a low risk and small changes, right? So low risk, small changes. We also want an environment where improvements can happen incrementally. So it's okay if we try it here. Maybe we just try it in one warehouse. Maybe we just try it in Green Bay, or maybe we just try it in another part of the United States. Just try it there and see if it works. Low risk with people paying attention and are aware of the changes being made. And we use it when we want to build team capability. So PDCA is not for high risk guessing. So this is not about a situation where you have very high risk, where you might not be able to deliver your product or service to your customer on time because of this change. So you really need to evaluate it. We don't want to use it when we have to do deep data analysis like statistical analysis or statistical process control. Again, high risk, high cost of failure. If we make this change, we could maybe not deliver to our customer. That would be a bad thing. We don't use it when an immediate fix is required. You want to use a blitz then. We don't do it when root cause analysis is already clearly known and large scale transformation is needed. So if you are saying, or you hear people say, I think this is the way it might work, let's try it. That's a PDCA. It's perfect when you don't need a huge full analysis, but you just also shouldn't jump to a solution. Again, this isn't for a high risk situation, so you do need to evaluate that and make sure you understand risk. And if you've been through any of my classes, you know I talk about a risk register. It's not for solutions where speed is critical, so we have to be careful with that. And it shouldn't replace DMAIC when heavy duty data analysis is required. So it's somewhere in the middle. Now let's move on and talk about an A3. So A3, problem solving methodology. A3, it's a way of thinking, right? It's not just a form. As we know, it's named after the A3 size of paper, but it's not just that. It's not just paperwork. It's not just a template. Again, this is another way of thinking, and this has clear steps that are associated with it. And the goal is to clearly communicate what's happening, why it matters, and what we're going to do about it on conceptually one page. Now, let's be realistic. Sometimes it's a little difficult to get it all stuck on one page. So, one page-ish. So, it's a structured approach to problem solving and communication. It tells the story conceptually on one page. It guides thinking, not just documentation, and it provides us with a shared understanding of what we're working on. A3's goal is clarity, alignment, and root cause. And I would also put in there, also in some circumstances, containment, because we do talk about countermeasures in an A3. And a countermeasure could be a temporary countermeasure or a permanent countermeasure. So we use an A3 when a problem is unclear or misunderstood, when there's multiple perspectives needed. So maybe we need to talk to an SME, maybe we need to talk to another site and see what they're doing. We use it when root cause analysis is not obvious. Again, if it's obvious, we're probably going to look at a blitz. We use an A3 with a cross-functional team, and you need a clear and structured approach. So it's not a form, not just a form, not just a piece of paper. It's a way of thinking. So A3 has essentially 8 different sections with a reflection at the end, which, by the way, is very important, and I'll talk about that more here in a second. So the first section is the background. So the background is, tell me the problem that you're trying to solve. So we see a theme here. We want to be able, with whatever tool that we pick, we want to be able to adequately explain what problem are you trying to solve and why does it matter? My old boss would say, why should we pay you to work on that project? Maybe not the most PC thing in the world to say, but you understand what I'm getting at. Second section is current condition, and that is what's happening. So consider doing a value stream map, and of course, a Gemba walk. Now, Gemba walk, even if we're virtual, right, we can look at a Gemba walk on systems too. Next section is root cause analysis. So root cause analysis looks at, why is this happening? So we could use a 5 whys, a fishbone diagram, affinity diagram, which is my favorite, or a scatter plot. Target condition is the next section. This is what success looks like. And then countermeasure. So countermeasure is what we will do. So you may consider getting those ideas from an affinity diagram, a fishbone, or a decision matrix. Please keep in mind that you may have temporary countermeasures and permanent countermeasures. If it is a temporary countermeasure, you need to make sure that there is a drop dead date on there, that we will contain this situation, or we will use this temporary countermeasure until the end of the month. And then at the conclusion of that, we will implement the permanent solution. But don't make that Band-Aid stick forever, because it won't. Next is implementation plan. So who, what, and when. Consider a project plan. If project plans and Gantt charts freak you out, then just have a list of tasks, owners, and due dates. Results and follow-up is the next section. Did it work? So let's look at some data. Let's look at a control chart or a run chart, or maybe we need to do a process audit after we've had time to implement. And then, of course, the last section is standardize and share. So standard work creation. And standard work is considered the most powerful lean tool in the world. And gone are the days, or you should consider gone are the days of just paper standard work documents. Standard work does not have to be a boring Word document that nobody ever reads. Standard work could be all pictures, is what Toyota uses. It could be videos. It could be an interaction between videos and pictures and words. It should be in some sort of a system or a tool. Where do we house our standard work? Where is it easily accessible? I have clients with some really great ideas for standard work and scanning barcodes with tablets to watch videos before somebody puts in a fixture into a machine so they know how that fixture works instead of having to look up a document. Or before somebody clocks into a machine or a particular task, the machine with their badge, the machine checks to say, yes, you have had training on this particular machine and you are up to date on that training. Yes, you can go ahead and use it. If not, here's a video to show you how to use it, AKA standard work. Go through that video, and then you are allowed to use the machine. And finally, reflection, which most companies really are challenged with doing right now. So reflection, or hansei in Japanese, means taking and having a lessons learned meeting. I put start, stop, continue here on the screen so that you can see that. I really like that approach. So we gather together in a room and we say, what should we start doing on the next project? What should we stop doing on the next project? And what should we continue doing? And it should say reflection and acknowledgement, because we need to make sure that we have some way to acknowledge our team's really hard work. And don't underestimate the power of a thank you. The goal for an A3 is clear and consistent communication. You're communicating what is happening, why it's happening, and what we're going to do about it, all in one document. So not every problem deserves an A3, just like not every problem deserves a blitz or a PDCA. If the team already knows the issue and solution, don't slow them down. So use the right tool for that situation. The A3 goal is clarity, alignment, and root cause. So your A3 is your alignment tool. It slows things down. Now, be careful with that word slow. So it's not mean grinding to a halt, but it allows us to go step by step to make sure we're solving the right problem, not just the fastest one. So when should you not use an A3? When a problem is simple and obvious. When immediate action is needed, that would be a blitz. When you need deep statistical analysis, now we're noticing a trend there, we use a DMAIC. When you want to do small trial and error, try this, try this, try that, test this, test that, that's PDCA. Or the solution's already clearly identified. So like I said, A3 is your alignment tool. Can you misuse it? Of course, any of these tools you can misuse. So what's the problem, or what's the symptom of misusing it? And when you just treat it like a form, there's A3. Some of you have been through the 8D process, 8 disciplines. Not fun process at all, right? And people will just look at that, or a CAR or a Kappa, and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to fill out this form. And you're looking at it as a form, not as a process to solve a problem. You shouldn't fill it out afterwards. Oh yeah, we got to do that paperwork for that. Remember, I think this is an A3, right? Nope, that's using it the wrong way. Or if you want to skip root cause analysis, or you don't get to the root cause, A3 gets a bad rap because people turn it into paperwork instead of using it to think. Now let's talk about DMAIC. DMAIC, most organizations are using DMAIC. So remember, we use a DMAIC when we have a current process that is broken. We use a DMADV when we need a new process because one does not currently exist. So DMAIC is the heavy lift, right? DMAIC project, in my opinion, should be used on a project that's going to take 3 to 6 months to complete. Now, not every project is scoped like that, right? Maybe you're on the call today and your company is getting a new ERP system. Yay! Or one of the two. If you have that, essentially it looks like a DMAIC. However, you should really consider looking at as a program. is your new ERP system. And then you have sub-DMAIC projects that are appropriately scoped in 3 to 6 months. I have a customer that rolled out a new ERP system. That was their program. And then they had individual DMAICs for the different departments that they rolled out one at a time. So that's something to consider. So DMAIC, of course, stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. It's data-driven problem solving. Yay, data, right? It's used for complex, high-impact projects, focuses on identifying and validating root cause, and reduce variation. DMAIC's goal is prove it with data. So in the define phase, we understand what problem we're trying to solve and why does it matter. In the measure phase, we gather data to tell us what's happening today or has happened in the past. In the analyze phase, we're understanding what is causing the problem, and in the improve phase, we look at what solutions will address the root cause. And the control phase, how do we sustain this? How do we sustain this for more than a few days, a few weeks, or a quarter? How do we sustain this until we come back and make the process better? So again, it's not your everyday problem-solving tool. This is when we have a big and messy and not easily understood. It takes time, but we want it to be right, not just fast. So it forces us to prove it with data, as I already mentioned. We don't assume root cause, we validate the root cause, and we don't guess at solutions, we test them. So there's a lot of rigor involved in DMAIC. When to use it? When a problem is complex. Again, it's big, it's complex, it's root cause, we're not quite sure what the root cause is. There's high cost, high liability, high risk. Variation is a key issue, which means we don't have repeatable processes with predictable results, and we really need a long-term solution. Now, many times people come to me with, we need a long-term solution or we're going to lose our customers. Yep, that would be a DMAIC. When should you not use it? You shouldn't use it when it's simple and obvious. Again, quick fix is a blitz. Testing at small ideas is PDCA. Alignment with the main issue is A3, or if you have limited time and resources. So if you're hearing, we've tried everything and it's still happening, that's a DMAIC. Or if the problem keeps coming back again, right? And the beat goes on, that's a DMAIC. It's powerful, but it's not fast. And if you use it on everything, if you make everything a DMAIC, it's going to slow your organization down. So choosing the right tool, right? So not every problem deserves or needs a full DMAIC, and not every problem deserves a blitz. So the real skill, though, is knowing the difference. And we'll talk about more in regards to that in just a minute. Let's talk about Kata. So Kata is building the ability to solve problems over and over again. So it's not about solving one problem, it's about building the ability to solve problems over and over. This is how an organization moves from we did a project to this is how we work. It's not random testing, it's a focused movement towards a goal, one step at a time. So there's improvement kata and coaching kata. So let's look at improvement kata. Improvement kata is a structured approach to building problem-solving habits, focuses on continuous improvement and learning and experimentation. Now we are focusing on developing people, not just process. So it uses routine and repetition to build capability, and it's driven by a clear target. So a kata pattern looks like this, or a circle or cycle. Understand the direction or challenge, understand or grasp the current condition. Again, what problem are we trying to solve? Define the next target condition. So what do we want to get to? Experiment and learn from each step. So it's similar to PDCA, but it is more structured and more intentional. Coaching kata is when we are coaching leaders and leaders are guiding thinking through questions. It's focusing on how people think, not just what they do. And this is where most organizations struggle. They're teaching tools, but they don't teach thinking or they don't coach thinking. So kata gives leadership a way to develop people, not just driven results. So if your organization has said, we've done lean, but it didn't stick, then you probably need to do kata. So kata reinforces, as I mentioned, through repetition, builds confidence and problem-solving capability and creates that culture. So there's the key word there, builds culture. Kata helps you build that culture of continuous improvement. You use it when you want to build long-term capability. Again, we're talking coaching kata. Problem solving needs to become a habit, not just something you do because you just went to class or it's a requirement. Teams need coaching. Continuous improvement is inconsistent, and you want a culture shift, not just results. Now, some of you are probably already doing improvement or coaching kata and you didn't even know, right? So I know many of you on the call today are working very hard to develop that culture of continuous improvement within your organization. And now you're looking at this and going, oh, look, there's a name for it. Yes, yes, there is. So when should we not use kata? Again, here's the repetition that we've been hearing. If you want immediate results, that's a blitz. If you need deep problem solving, data analysis, statistical analysis, looking at data from machines, looking at data that's manually gathered, that's DMAIC. You want to test an idea real quick? That's PDCA. One-time alignment is needed, that's an A3. No, and you don't use kata if you don't have leadership commitment to coaching. And that's huge. That is huge. That is a culture shift in the organization to have your leaders coaching on these topics. If you ignore kata or if you ignore culture, you don't sustain your improvements. They don't stick, right? Teams rely on experts. So they're like, oh, I don't know how to do that. Oh, we have to do PDCA, go talk to Amy because she's the only one that got trained. She's the black belt. Go talk to her. If you ignore kata, you're going to have problem solving inconsistencies. Your culture doesn't change, and you get the we tried lean mindset. It didn't work. And every time I coach yellow belts or green belts or black belts, we talk about culture. In our black belt class, we have culture pit stops in the class where we talk about this is what it looks like to have a culture of lean thinking or a culture of continuous improvement. And I give them specific examples. One of the examples is your team members should know who your competition is. That's part of your culture. Your culture should be things like knowing who your competition is, knowing what the 8 wastes are, knowing how to define value. And we have those culture pit stops when we do our black belt training. So again, kata is not fast. It's the only fast thing we've talked about so far is blitz. So it's not fast, it's an investment. If leadership isn't willing to coach consistently, it won't work. So you need that leadership, not just that one person you go to because they got trained as a black belt. It's the missing piece in most organizations. So if you are struggling with a lean mindset, with a continuous improvement culture, this is the part that's normally missing. And this is the part that I help many customer after customer after customer develop. But please keep in mind, it takes time to develop this. If you were to come to me today and say, Katie, we're ready for our lean journey. We've made some mistakes in the past and we're ready to go. We're all in. I'm going to tell you it is between a 2 and 3 year journey. Year 1, you're not going to see very much. But year 2 and year 3, you will start to see the changes within your organization if you continue to feed the machine. And I always tell the folks that I'm coaching this, you have to feed the machine, meaning you have to feed that culture through things like Kata. So Kata builds muscle, blitz creates speed, PDCA creates learning, A3 creates alignment, and DMAIC creates precision. Now, how do you choose? You need to ask some questions. How complex is the problem? Or the first question I would always ask is, what problem are you trying to solve? How complex is the problem? How much data do we need? How fast do we need to act? And is this about solving or problems or developing people? So is it about solving or developing? Same company, different problems. So disorganized personal workspace. By the way, this could be a personal workspace, right? If I had a tablet up here, tablet, personal workspace. My laptop I'm presenting right now, personal workspace. This office, personal workspace. It's disorganized and we need to fix it. That's a blitz. Disorganized common workspace. Let's say your tool crib. Let's say your shop area. Let's say shipping and receiving. That would be a PDCA. Customer complaint trend. Ooh, that's a good one. That's an A3 potentially. Machine downtime, great example for DMAIC, right? Let's get that information. Worked with a customer that was tracking machine downtime. Yay! Was tracking machine downtime and they had 31 options for the reason for downtime. Ugh. We had to look at that and we had to say we can't give them 31 options. We have to go back and really do some data analysis and figure out which options are the most pertinent and actionable. You need to develop your supervisors, Kata. So choosing the right problem-solving approaches. So as we know, it's not one solution fits all. The mistake organizations make is trying to force fit something, one tool for everything. So that's when teams get frustrated and problems don't get solved and people go back to firefighting. So this isn't about picking a favorite, though I'm sure we all have one. The goal is picking the right tool for the situation. So if it's a blitz, it's fast. We've already talked about that. Low to medium complexity. Primary focus is immediate action. Best use, fix known issues quickly. So like we just said, we need to clean up an area, 5S an area for your own personal area. That would be a blitz. A PDCA, speed is moderate. Doesn't mean it's slow. It's just more than a blitz. Low to medium complexity. You want to test and learn. So that's why I said you use PDCA in a common workplace, because there you'd be able to say, okay, we're going to put things here and let's see how it works for us for the next week and then evaluate it. So again, try and refine ideas. And A3 is moderate speed, medium complexity. Primary focus is on alignment and clarity. So understanding and communicating problems is the best use case for that. DMAIC is slower. So again, my suggestion or my rule of thumb is to scope a DMAIC with something that you can solve within 3 to 6 months. If it's going to be longer than that, you may want to consider having different versions or phases for your DMAIC. It's high complexity. We use data and root cause analysis, and it's for complex, high impact problems. And Kata, the speed is ongoing. So again, this is culture discussion. The complexity is medium. We're capability building, and there we're developing people and culture. So like I said, you're probably already doing some of these without either having that official form or a manner in which to track it, or really realizing, hey, we're already doing Kata. That's what it's called. It's not only about the method, it's about the experience. So frustration comes from mismatch, confidence comes from clarity, and engagement comes from ownership. So that is something to keep in mind as we look at these different methodologies. So some key takeaways for today. Not all problems are created equal. We already know that. The method should match the need. Speed, complexity, and purpose matter. So if you need something done fast, and you may have to reduce the scope or complexity if it needs to be done fast instead of taking longer for it. So you may need to adjust in order to be able to meet other demands. And great organizations build problem solvers and problem preventers. So final thought for today. Sustainable success doesn't come from using one tool perfectly. It comes from knowing which tool to use and when. And I apologize, some of my images are not coming over today for some reason. Only because you're doing it live, right? So upcoming training, May 13th, virtual live. So I'm teaching Lean Six Sigma Yellow Belt certification course. So that course is going to be held live. It's from 8 Central Time AM until 4 Central Time PM. So a full day with a couple breaks for comfort and a lunch break. Starting June 1st, we have live virtual Lean Six Sigma Black Belt certification. In that class, you must be a green belt before you become a black belt. You must have a project identified, and I will coach you through your project. You don't have to have your project completed before you sign up for class, but you do have to have one identified. And I coach you throughout the life of that project. So in general, we would like that project to be a DMAIC or a DMADV that we can complete in 3 to 6 months. And May 29th, we have our next free session, Lean Leadership in 2026, Expectation for Modern Leaders. So if you scan the QR code on the screen today, you can go directly to the page on my website to look at all the training. So I just want to thank you for attending today's session. I greatly appreciate it. You can scan the QR code on the screen or go to my website and go to shop, and you can download the presentation, the PDF version of it for free today. And of course, AI gave me this rendering of me. I love it. And even though I have 3 arms, right? I love that. So please, if you are interested in contacting me, please reach out. I do generalized training like the yellow belt, green belt, and black belt, and then I do specific training for specific customers. I'll be traveling the next couple weeks to Ohio and to Illinois and to Indiana to do some customer specific training. So you have your options for what training needs you may have. If you are also in a situation where you are wondering, where do I store all of this stuff? So if you have gone through the training and you're like, this is great, I have my blitz, I have a document I found for it, I can document it, or a PDCA. I've partnered with a company called Process Partner AI, and Process Partner AI is a system, a subscription-based system based on Microsoft Azure that allows you to be able to store all of your projects in one place. It is a fantastic solution if that is a problem that you're working on solving. So again, thank you for your time today. Please contact me if you have any questions in regards to the training, the content today, or Process Partner AI. I'd be happy to be able to help you. Are there any questions from the audience today? You're welcome, Gina. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you have a fantastic and beautiful Friday. If you are here in Wisconsin, there are lots of community garage sales going on this weekend. So that'll be fun, and it's not snowing. So there we go.
Thanks, Katie.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.